Hi guys, in this short video we're going to really focus in and look at the method for writing awesome learning objectives. As I mentioned in the last video, there's two different types of learning objectives, terminal and enabling. Because terminal objectives can come from other places, can be assigned to you from other places, we're not going to worry about those too much. So we're going to really focus on writing the enabling objectives and then just thinking about how those can fit in with any terminal objectives you might have. Now, I glossed over a little bit on what exactly learning objectives are, but I want to focus in a little bit on the definition right now because I think it helps elicit how you're going to write these objectives First, learning objectives are something that are written for the student, right? It says what the student is expected to do following a learning activity or process. And secondly, learning objectives need to be specific, observable, and measurable so that you know exactly what the students are supposed to be able to have accomplished at the end of a particular unit. So a properly constructed learning objective will have three parts. It'll have a measurable performance or behavior. It will say explicitly what the criteria for success is, and it will also say what the condition is under which that objective will be performed. So that's all a bit abstract. So let's take a look at a particular learning objective and unpack it in terms of both the elements that it's supposed to contain and its overall definition. So here we go. So you'll notice this learning objective has all three elements that it's supposed to contain. So when writing your syllabus, that's the condition under which the activity will be performed. You'll be able to correctly, that's the criteria for success, employ terminal and enabling learning objectives, and that's the performance. And you'll notice that this learning objective is written from the perspective of the student. Pretty simple, right? So we'll look at a couple more learning objectives before we finish this video. But before we do, I want to stress one important element of writing a great learning objective, and that is the verbs that you actually use to indicate the performance. When writing learning objectives, it's important to use action verbs because these verbs allow you to make a measurable objective. So I've given you a couple of quick examples here that you can use in your own objectives. Some of those are recognize, construct, evaluate, prioritize, articulate, identify, etc. So verbs that you should avoid are ones that describe actions that can't be measured simply. And I'm certainly guilty of using some of these. But those are shows interest in, appreciation for, is capable of, and the big one is understands. Remove these from your learning objective lexicon. When you're choosing the verbs for your learning objectives, you want to be cognizant of the type of learning you're trying to target, and you can match your verbs to Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. We've put together a cheat sheet for you in this week's Moodle site where you can find a list of the verbs for each of the elements of Fink's taxonomy for significant learning. So now we're going to walk through some learning objectives of variable quality, and we'll take a look at these and pick out exactly why some of these are terrible or why they're awful and why some of these are beautiful. Let's look at the first one. By the end of the course, I will present important concepts on early 20th century industrial policy. Oh, this is terrible. It is not written from the perspective of the student, so this learning objective fails. All right, we have a slightly better learning objective here. Let's read it. By the end of the course, students will understand how critical theory influences the writing of history. This learning objective is written from the student's perspective, and it does have the condition for when the learning objective will be performed. However, it has this terrible verb understand in the learning objective, which is unmeasurable, and it has no criteria for success. So we're getting a bit better here. So let's take a look at this one. After completing this section of the course, the students will be able to define political socialization, etc., etc. So this is nicely done, right? It has it's written from the perspective of the student. It has really nice verbs, define, describe, that are measurable. Really, the only thing that this learning objective is missing is a criteria for success, so that students will know when they've achieved the objective. We have a beautiful learning objective. When analyzing early Buddhist writings, you'll be able to correctly identify those elements which derive from concepts in traditional Indian religions. So this is written from the student's perspective. It tells you the condition when this will happen. It tells you the criteria for success. You'll be able to correctly, right? That's all you need for the criteria. And finally, it has a nice verb in there, right? You'll be able to identify. All right, so now it's your turn. We have a assignment up on Moodle where you're going to be able to write your own learning objectives for your library instruction session. So go ahead and do that, and we'll be online taking a look at all the great work that you do. So that wraps up what I have to tell you about learning objectives. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the types of objectives that you guys build this week. Thanks, everybody.